Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Hare Krishna. So today we are doing chapter number 12, Devotional Service. This is the middle section of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 7 to 12. And this section is known as Bhakti Yoga. And this is the last in that series. And it has been named as such, Devotional Service. So it does not mean that other 12 chapters are dealing with something else. Even though Krishna does talk about some other subject matter, but he ultimately ends every chapter with emphasis on Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, these processes are extremely difficult, especially impractical in today's day and age. And unless they are 100% perfected, they are not considered a success. One has to start from zero. We hear about many yogis. They did thousands of years of tapasya like Vishwamitra, Saubri Muni. But once they fell down, their tapasya was spoiled. They had to start all over again. And secondly, these processes cannot be considered complete unless they are accompanied by Bhakti Yoga. Krishna, being the Supreme Lord, he does not even look at those people who are following the path of Jnana, Karma, Dhyana. But he showers his complete grace upon a person who has even an iota of Bhakti in his heart. And what is Bhakti? There are 9 limbs of Bhakti: hearing, chanting his names, remembering him, offering prayer, serving his deity form, surrendering everything that we have in his service, acting as his well-wisher, his friend. Like that, there are 9 limbs of Bhakti. And even if we are doing one of these, it's not that we have to do all 9. Even if we put our heart into one, if you like to hear about him more and more from the Gita and Bhagavad. If you like to chant his names, do that more and more. If you like to remember him, do that more and more. If you like to offer him prayers, do that as much as possible. Even one of these 9 different processes of bhakti have the potential to lead us to the perfectional stage of human life, and that is the attainment of love for God, love for Krishna. We are trying to love each other, we are trying to love others, but it is very difficult. But Srila Prabhupada says that if you try to love Krishna, automatically you will develop your love for everyone. And this is the ultimate goal of life. So many people are bewildered about what is the goal of life. Not just human beings, even the great rishis, they are also bewildered. But what is the ultimate goal of life? We can make our own goals of life and we think they are right. But ultimately, God is the one who knows better than anybody else. He knows the best. And Krishna, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained, what is the goal of life? Prema Pumaratho Mahan, to develop love for God. That can only happen when we engage in his devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting. So every other process also becomes complete only when there is the touch of bhakti. However, bhakti is supremely independent. It does not need the help of karma, jnana, or dhyana to complete itself. It is complete in itself. Other processes depend on bhakti, but bhakti is not dependent on any other process. This chapter number 12, it has three themes. Text number 1 to 7, Krishna is talking about uh, one of his very important aspects, answering a very common question. Because Arjuna is asking questions not for himself. He knows who Krishna was, he knows who Krishna is, but he is asking for us. And then 8 to 12 verses, Krishna gives various options because the path of bhakti, uh, everyone may not be able to do it immediately. So he offers, out of his magnanimity, various options by which we can start connecting with him, by which we can start walking towards a destination from wherever we are. And text number 13 to 20, he talks about the qualities of a person who has uh, perfected the path of bhakti or who is sincerely trying to walk on this path, the qualities and how they win his heart. The unconquerable Lord is conquered by them. So, in the beginning of this chapter, Arjuna has asked a question, a common question. Evam satata yukta ye bhaktastvam paryupasate ye chapi aksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittamaha. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested, the formless aspect? Now, don't we have the same question? Is God formless or does he have a form? Or whose worship is the supreme? Same question is asked by Arjuna. So we have answered this earlier. God is neither formless nor uh, has a form, but he has both and something else also that makes him complete. If someone is God, he has to be complete. For example, uh, if somebody says God is only formless and he does not have a form, that means God is incomplete. Why can't he have a form? And somebody says God only has form and no formless aspect, that means God is still incomplete. And somebody says God has a form and a formless aspect. What about the middle part? Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam gives the answer. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yaj jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdete. The Lord has three different features. The lowest is the impersonal Brahman, the effulgent, that Brahma Jyoti. Higher than that is the Paramatma feature, where he is known to be situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma, in his four-handed Vishnu form, literally. And the highest realization is that of his form, Bhagavan feature, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan, where he is residing as a personality, beautiful form, eternal form, and full of six opulences: beauty, wealth, knowledge, strength, renunciation, and fame. Aishwarya yasya samagrasya virya yasya yashashashri Gyan Vairagyushcheva Shannam Bhaga Itim Gana. So these are the six opulences: wealth, beauty, fame, knowledge, strength, and renunciation, which is present in the Lord. So if you say beauty and strength and fame and knowledge, that generally or definitely refers to a form. Brahma has explained how the Lord has Sachidananda Vigraha. So the lowest level of realization is when people understand him to be formless aspect. Higher than that, we understand he's localized also in everyone's heart. His beautiful Vishnu form, and the highest is understanding him as a personality who engages in loving pastimes with his devotees. How does Krishna clarify? Because we are talking about Krishna's aspect. He is God, and the question is whether God is now. Arjuna is not bothered about whether God has a formless aspect or form. It is understood he has both because he's a devotee, he knows everything. He's asking whose worship is the supreme, the formless aspect or his personal uh, devotional service of his personal form. So, what does the Lord say? Since we are trying to approach God, many people say, oh, no, no, the formless aspect is better. So, but we are trying to worship Him, God. So, let's ask Him only. What is He saying? He says, Ye nirdesham avyaktam paryupasate sarvatra kamachintyam cha kutastham achalam dhruvam sanniyamendriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhayah te prapnuvanti maveva sarvabhuta hite ratah. So before that, another verse, he says, Mayavesha manoye mam nitya yukta upasate shraddhaya parayopetas te me yuktatama mata. The Supreme Personality of God has said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. Once and for all, Krishna has given his verdict. Those who worship his personal form are considered most perfect and engaged in his devotional service. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Lord, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pita, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So Krishna is clearly explaining in these 6 verses that those who worship his personal form are the topmost. And then he talks about the formless aspect also, those people who worship him. Indirectly, he's indicating that they have to really, really work hard, control the mind and the senses, and become equiposed towards everyone, develop equal vision towards everyone. That means towards every living entity, and be engaged in the welfare of everyone. At last, they achieve me. So, what is Krishna trying to say here? Does it mean that Krishna is saying even those who worship the formless aspect, they will also at last achieve me only? So a person might start thinking, okay, those people who are thinking the formless aspect is supreme, they will also approach him, achieve him in the end, even though after great difficulty. So I don't mind going through that difficulty. Please understand there are two types of people who worship the impersonal form of the Lord. One category is called Brahmavadis, and one category is called Mayavadis. What Krishna is talking about here is the Brahmavadis. The impersonal, formless aspect of the Lord is referred to as Brahman, Brahma Jyoti. So he's talking about those people who are attached to the impersonal aspect, Brahmavadis, who think that this is what we are supposed to worship and this is the ultimate. But these people are not averse to knowing further. It's just that they do not have any knowledge beyond this aspect. But if somebody goes and tells them, oh, Baba, there is Paramatma feature of the Lord also personal, and then there is Bhagavan feature filled with 6 opulences where you can reciprocate with him, loving relationships. They're not averse to this, they can advance further. They don't say that, oh, the formless is the ultimate, but it's just that they are worshipping that formless aspect and they don't have knowledge beyond that. So they are called innocent people and they can be elevated. But the Mayavadi class of people, you must have heard about this philosophy. They are the greatest offenders at the lotus feet of Krishna. Who are these Mayavadis who actually think the Lord is ultimately formless and the Lord's form is a Maya, illusion, and we just imagine some form of the Lord till we reach that formless aspect. And then once we reach that, we merge into Him, become one with Him, and then we kick out that form. These are Mayavadis, and they are considered the greatest offenders at the lotus feet of the Lord. We should not even associate with people if we want to protect the creeper of devotion in our heart. Just by associating with these people, just by hearing from them, whatever little devotion we have towards the Lord, whatever little faith we have, will be destroyed. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is directly Krishna, he has declared, Mayavadi Bhashya Sunile Hoibe Sarvanash. If you hear the interpretations of the Mayavadis, Sarvanash, everything will be destroyed. Everything, whatever little faith, little bhakti, little devotion, little attitude of service, seva towards Krishna, if we have, that will also be destroyed if we mix with these people, if we hear from such people, because they will completely spoil our mind. Even if they're speaking from the Gita, from the Bhagavatam, we should not care to listen to them because they have a very different conception of what Krishna is talking about in the Gita and what is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is not the words, it is the consciousness behind those words that creates an impact on our consciousness. So they may be speaking, oh, Krishna stole butter, but in their mind they are thinking how Krishna is just an illusion form, in his illusory form is running around, and ultimately we have to become one with him formless. So that contamination will permeate through the words that he speaks and enter our consciousness and dry up even a little puddle of bhakti that we have for Krishna. So you have to be very, very careful of this dangerous philosophy. What Krishna is talking about here is that at last they achieve means the Brahmavadis, those who are trying to worship the impersonal aspect, formless aspect, because they do not have any knowledge beyond that. But they are not averse. They are not saying God has no form. They're saying, oh, this is God, and they are worshipping with a lot of devotion. But for that, they need to go through a lot of difficulty, mind control, sense control, equanimity, and for maybe thousands and thousands of yugas. And if they fail, they have to start from zero. So we have to be careful about this dangerous, most offensive philosophy. It is like if we hear from such people, if we associate with such people who think God's form is Maya, ultimately we are all God, we become one with God, and God has no form, even if somebody tries to tell them. And then it is like, and at the same time, they claim to be serving God. So it is like feeding Krishna with one hand and hitting his head with a stick with the other hand. So this is not appreciated much. But Krishna says these people, Brahmavadis, he comes, let's talk about them, who are trying to endeavor to perfect their realization in the formless aspect. He said they have to really, really, really work hard. After, I mean, years and yugas of tapasya and hard work, they might achieve me in the end. And what is meant by might? Because once they become more elevated, they will have to understand, oh, it is not the formless aspect, there is Paramatma, there is Bhagavan. So that realization might come to them after a lot of struggle in the world and after a lot of time. And they are trying, depending on their own strength and intelligence. But Krishna in the text number 6 and 7, he says, for those who are devoted to me, that means my personal form, engage in my devotional service. Devotional service means hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. Worship of the impersonal aspect cannot be regarded as devotional service. How can you show devotion to nothing? How can you show devotion to light? We need a person to reciprocate our love with. So it involves an object, a subject, and reciprocation. That is only possible when on the other side also we have a personality. And that's what is meant by devotional service. So Krishna says, those who are devoted to my service, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. However, one who is walking on the path of impersonal aspect, they have to keep trying on their own, and at last they might achieve me after a great difficulty. But those who simply engage in my devotional service, hearing, chanting, I become the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Example, like in the ocean, however big a swimmer we may be, but if we try to get to the shore on our own, we are in the middle of the unfathomable ocean. It's very difficult and very tiring, and very little hope of surviving, because and it will take a long, long, long time for us to come to the shore. And so therefore this material world is also compared to an unfathomable ocean. उसको कहते हैं, it's called भवसागर. Bhavsagar. So, an unfathomable ocean. It is very, very difficult to survive this ocean, to come out of it on our own. But imagine if somebody comes and picks us up from the middle of the ocean, so easy. If we keep trying, it's very difficult. But somebody comes from above and picks us up, it's very easy to get there. We don't have to make any effort. Somebody else is doing it for us. That's what Krishna is saying. Those who are devoted to Him, regularly chanting, hearing about Him, engaged in His seva, He picks them up. They don't have to make any effort on their part. Just like this picture, classic example. Struggling in the middle of the ocean, but the Lord is coming on Garuda and picking the person up. Now that's much easier. In bhakti, Krishna saves us. On other paths, we have to be uh, there for ourselves. It's like each one for himself. But in bhakti path, Krishna is there for each one. Text number 8 to 12, Krishna, out of his great magnanimity, he shows various paths because he knows that not everybody may be ready for the path of bhakti, and everybody may not uh, be able to do it immediately. But he says, doesn't matter. You ultimately have to come to the path of bhakti, and not everybody is so fortunate to begin it immediately. So he gives various options. That's the magnanimity of teacher. Like, imagine we would always look for multiple choice questions or various options, especially talking about if the questions were like three questions, we had to attempt one out of three. Next one also one out of three. We would be so elated. We would be so, so happy with the teacher. So magnanimous, so merciful. So Krishna also, he says, all right, if you cannot start practicing it immediately, because to come to the path of bhakti also, a lot of purity and mercy is required. Not everybody can start walking this path. Therefore, you see, when you give a lecture, 100 people sitting, 10 may come forward, 10 may come much later. Some of them just come and go, never come, because it takes a lot of purity and some level of devotional service that one has performed in the past. But he says, don't worry, but I'll show you some other ways by which we can gradually come to this path. He says, Mayyeva manadhatsva, Mayi buddhim niveshaya, Nivashyasi Mayyeva, Ata urdhvam na samshaya. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without doubt. Basically saying, always just remember me, and with your intelligence try to understand me. This way you will always live with me, in me, without a doubt. And if we cannot fix our mind on him, because there are many, many rules and regulations mentioned in these scriptures, there are two rules which are the kings of all other rules. And if we can follow these two rules, all the other rules we are automatically following. We don't have to separately follow them. Crores of rules. Just follow these two rules, we are automatically understood. We're following all other rules as well. These are the kings. All other rules follow these two rules, like the servants follow the king. What are these two rules? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. That means one rule only, always remembering him. That's what Krishna is saying. Always fix your mind in me, on me, remember me as the Supreme Lord. Engage your intelligence in me to understand me fully. And in this way you will always live with me. But if you cannot do that, because it's very difficult, we have other things also to do. अथ चित्तं समाधातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततो मामिच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then do this. Then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. Then you just, because this fixing of our mind and intelligence completely on Krishna is a very, very elevated stage. And if you're not on that stage, then we should simply follow the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga. Like, what are the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga? Uh, Don'ts: no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit affairs, avoiding certain things, and doing certain things. So, associate with devotees regularly, hear from them, study scriptures regularly. ABCD is called. C is chant the Lord's holy names: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And D is diet. Whatever you eat, offer it to the Lord first, then you eat. And gradually, these four activities, A, B, C, D, associating with devotees and hearing in that association. B is study of scriptures every day, spending some time studying the Gita, Bhagavat. It may be half an hour. C is chanting the Lord's name, spending time chanting. This is the most important activity if we really, really want to advance swiftly on this path of bhakti towards Krishna. And D is offer things to the Lord, then you eat. Nobody is stopping you from eating. If you follow these principles of bhakti yoga, hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, serving the deity form of the Lord, the form of the Lord, you can have a nice murti of the Lord in your house and serve him nicely, give him nice clothes, bhoga. If we simply follow these regulative principles, then gradually we'll come to the stage of continuous remembrance of the Lord. So all that we are doing, all we have been doing in the last so many months or so many years, is just so that we can always remember him. And that is the message of the Gita. You don't have to give up anything. Just as you are working, try to remember him simultaneously. Krishna told Arjuna, Ma manusmara yudhyacha. You fight and remember me. In our case, it means we work and remember him. But in order to be able to remember him all the time, which is the ultimate perfection, where all our mind and intelligence is always on him, there have been many kings like that. Like King Ambarish, the story comes in ninth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. All the time he was just thinking about the Lord, and he was also managing his whole kingdom, which was this entire planet. So it's possible. Sometimes we think, if I only think about Krishna all the time, how will I do my duties? That's lack of awareness, lack of maturity, lack of faith. People make these statements. Krishna has already declared, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nitya viyuktanam yogakshemam vahamiham. And those who remember him with undivided attention, he carries what they lack and he protects what they have. He will supply all the needs. Krishna is not ungrateful like us. He is very grateful for whatever little we do. He will see that we are giving so much time to him. He'll make sure that we don't miss out on any front. He will, and you will have this personal realization provided you are willing to have that leap of faith. Whenever we surrender to Krishna, whether it is our money, our home, our resources, our energy, our time, we are never the losers. We will get million times in return, 100%. Sometimes we have to sacrifice our time, energy, or money, for Krishna's pleasure, for Krishna's seva. And but you will see that you will get it million times back in return. Krishna is always grateful for whatever little we do for him. And whatever we have sacrificed, Krishna will make sure that we don't miss out on that thing. We'll receive all the benefits and much, much more. Further, he says, if you cannot fix your mind upon me, follow the regulative principles. And if you can't do that also, abhyase api asamarthvasi, mat karma paramo bhava, madartham api karmani, kurvan siddhim avapsisi. If you cannot practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me. Because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. That means, okay, you're not able to follow the regulative principles also, you think you have a lot of work to do in this world. Work, but offer the fruits of those that work to me. That means whatever we earn by that work, a part of it, we can start using it in the Lord's service. And that way, gradually, by doing that, we'll get gradually purified little by little and ultimately come to the stage where we can always remember him. अथैतदपि असक्तोऽसि कर्तुं मद्योगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं ततः कुरु यतात्मवान्. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, Then try to act giving up all results of work and try to be self-situated. And if you can't do that also, then simply act in a detached manner. Don't get attached to the fruits of work, whether you get profit or loss. Don't get attached to either. Just keep working as your duty in a very detached manner. Because if we get attached to either the success or failure, profit or loss, then we are stuck. Whether it's profit or loss, remain equiposed and just keep walking. That way, we'll be saved from the cycle of action and reaction. And for us to get liberated and advance further, we must be free from the process of action and reaction. Don't react, he says, to success or failure, profit or loss. Just act in a very equiposed manner. श्रेयो हि ज्ञानम् अभ्यासाच् ज्ञानाध्यानं विशिष्यते ध्यानात् कर्म फल त्यागात् शान्तिरनन्तरम्. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Then if you can't do all this also, then cultivate knowledge. Try to understand why it is so important. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. Meditation on nothing nahi. Meditation on his form, or especially in Kali Yuga, meditation on the sound of his name. Because Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. In Kali Yuga, the Lord has appeared as his name. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. That means you don't get attached to the results of your work, happiness or distress. Don't become elated when there is profit. Don't become depressed when there is loss. You remain peaceful. And now, somebody who has worked uh, towards the attainment of this ultimate goal of life or the pleasure of Krishna, bhakti, bhakti yoga. Um, what are the symptoms of that devotee or one who is trying to sincerely elevate himself on this path of bhakti? So please understand whatever options Krishna has mentioned, text number 8 to 12, they are not given just to get stuck over there. All these options must be exercised with a goal in mind, that ultimately, because you're not able to focus your mind completely, okay, so let me engage in the cultivation of knowledge or renounce the fruits of actions or offer them to Krishna. So the goal should be so that I can gradually elevate myself to that point where I can fully think of him always. So goal is not to get stuck, okay, just remain equiposed and you don't advance further. You keep walking, but the goal is not clear, destination is not clear. What is the use of walking? So all this has to be towards Krishna. So these people who are working in this consciousness, either trying to cultivate knowledge or following the regulative principles of bhakti yoga, or working for Krishna, renouncing the fruits of action and remaining equiposed. The goal should be very clear. Why are we doing this? So that we can achieve the mercy of Krishna and come to a platform where we can actually engage in his devotional service. The goal of all these should be to come to the platform of bhakti, where we can directly sit and hear and chant and have faith in devotional service of Krishna. The goal is ultimately bhakti. It is not to get stuck. Oh, Krishna said you do this, so I'm just being equiposed. No, goal is equiposed. क्यों होना है हमको? Why? So because that will help us advance further, get elevated, get little more purified. And the more we are purified, the more we will understand that Vasudeva Sarvamiti, that Lord Vasudeva Krishna is everything, and I must engage in his devotional service. The goal is bhakti. So now that means the goal is ultimately to become a devotee of Krishna. Now Krishna in text number 13 to 20, he explains the various symptoms of the devotees and or the disposition of a devotee in this world, and how such devotees are very very dear to him and they conquer his heart. One of the names of Krishna is Ajita, that means who cannot be conquered, but how devotees can conquer him with all these qualities. So Bhagavatam explains, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarvair Gunes Tatra Samasate Sura. And how is it that these devotees only have these qualities, saintly qualities? It is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana. Anyone who has genuine devotion to Krishna will automatically develop all these divine qualities. That means if anybody is trying to engage in the process of bhakti, beginning with hearing and chanting, automatically all these divine qualities will manifest in him, and these qualities are very, very dear. Therefore, these devotees become very, very dear to Krishna. So, devotees are extremely favored by the Lord. Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitrah karuna eva cha nirmamo nirhankara samadukha sukha kshami santushtah satatam yogi yatatma dridhanichayah mai arpita mano buddhir yomad bhaktah same priyah. One who is not envious, please listen to this, who are very dear to the Lord. How and or in other words, if we walk on the path of bhakti, what are the qualities we will develop in due course? These qualities cannot be developed by attending some personality courses. That will just be a patchwork, but inside you remain the same person. But anybody who is genuinely practicing bhakti, devotional service, they will develop these qualities, and that way they become very dear to the Lord. And then the Lord personally comes and picks them up always. One who is not envious but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always self satisfied, self controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. So, these qualities, anyone who has, that person becomes very dear to Krishna. Or, in other words, anybody who's trying to practice devotional service will develop all these qualities automatically. Like there are so many seminars happening, how to deal with change, how to remain equiposed and peaceful in all situations, how to give up ego, how to give up envy, how to become more tolerant. And there are so many seminars, people are charging money also, and we are paying and still remaining the same person. But here Krishna says just simply engage in devotional service, and automatically, because these are disease of the heart, and as we engage in the process of bhakti, hearing, chanting, etc., the heart gets purified, and potentially we are all divine. So automatically these divine qualities will be uncovered, which are covered with a lot of dirt at the moment. So when we start hearing and chanting about the Lord, that transcendental sound of the Lord's words, his names, automatically purifies the heart of that dirt, and then our divinity is uncovered automatically, and that's a permanent solution. Yasman no dvijate loko loka no dvijate chayah harsha marsha bhayodvege mukto yah sacha me priyah. Who else is very dear to Krishna? He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anybody. He does not disturb anybody. He is not disturbed by anyone. That means this is the kind of disposition we develop as we walk on the path of bhakti. Who is equiposed in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety is very dear to me. So it has two meanings I'm reiterating. One is if you start walking on the path of bhakti, you will develop these qualities. And because as we become devotees, we get more and more purified. And secondly, anyone who has these qualities is very dear to Krishna. But it is very nicely explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Without being a devotee, nobody can have these qualities. One may make a show of these qualities, but they don't stay forever. One provoking situation and everything will be going for a toss. But a devotee exhibits these qualities naturally because his heart has got purified. He's not faking it. He's not making a show of these qualities. अनपेक्ष सुचिर दक्ष उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारंभ परित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, that means without worries, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very, very dear to me. So these people, we automatically become very, very balanced. One thing that we achieve by the process of bhakti is complete balance in life. Nothing can shake us. And if you want to know, read Mahabharata, the life of Pandavas. So much happened to them, nothing could shake them. Nothing could shake their faith in Krishna. And that was the main reason why they eventually won back everything that they had lost and much more. And they also won eternal fame. And the Kauravas, on the other hand, they lost everything that they had, despite having the most powerful warriors and the army on their side. So, this is one thing that we definitely achieve, a life of complete balance. Happiness will not make us lose that balance, nor will the distress shake us from that balance that we have achieved. So, it gives that complete balance. Nothing can shake us. So bhakti, if somebody asks, why are you engaging in bhakti? Why are you serving Krishna? Just to have a life of balance. Profit or loss, honor or dishonor, praise, criticism, happiness, distress. We will not be affected by any of these. We'll maintain our balance. Right? Idhar udhar nahi hoga. Samah shatrau cha mitre cha tatha mana pamanayoh shitoshna sukha dukkheshu samah sangha viparachitah तुल्य निंदा स्थिर मौनी संतुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतः स्थिरमतिर् भक्तिमान में प्रियो नरः. And what else? Who is dear to Krishna, or what are the qualities you will develop? You might find some repetition, but the repetition is happening when this repetition happens in an ordinary course of activity. That is a flaw. It's a fault. But when this repetition takes place in the scriptures, it is because of two reasons: either to re-emphasize a point, a special point, most important point, or sometimes out of great ecstasy, like in the universal form chapter, last chapter, we heard about Arjuna is seeing something in the universal form and is explaining that, expressing that, but there is repetition that is out of great excitement. And in the second chapter of the Bhagavat Gita, text number 11 to 30, Krishna explains the various qualities of the soul. There is repetition, how the soul is eternal and full of knowledge, and nothing can harm the soul. We are eternal, we are the soul. Just to re emphasize that we understand we are not these bodies, we are spiritual beings, we are the souls. So, here also, it's happening out of great ecstasy. If you find repetition, because Krishna is talking his heart out. What is his heart? The devotees. He's explaining the most exalted qualities of his dear devotees, due to which he loves them the most, which develop by the process of bhakti. One who is equal to friends and enemies. Very difficult to have this balance, but bhakti will give us that. Who is equiposed in honor and dishonor, as I was explaining. Heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy. Heat and cold. Who is always free from contaminating association. So he is very careful about his association also. We are what we associate with. Therefore, there's a lot of emphasis given on satsanga. That means sat means true, sat means eternal, sat means pure, sat means real. Satsanga. So a person must avoid bad association. Always silent. Always silent का मतलब ये नहीं कि he always keeps quiet. Who is asked or expected to who do we tell that keep silent? Somebody who's talking nonsense, but somebody who's talking something fruitful, we say, okay, go on talking. So here, always silent means he does not engaging in any some mundane conversations. He does not talk unnecessarily, because our words can also implicate us in the laws of karma. So always silent means he does not talk rubbish. He's always talking words that are related to Krishna or related to his message, or which are beneficial for others. Otherwise, he keeps quiet and satisfied with anything. In any situation, he remains satisfied. He'll automatically develop these qualities. Who doesn't care for any residence? Residence also refers to shelter. Now, since he has got complete shelter of Krishna, so he does not care for any other's residence, because he's completely satisfied in living in that. If somebody is living in a chill house, what hanker for something? So Krishna's heart is so big. Devotees live in Krishna's heart, and Krishna lives in devotees' heart. That is something Krishna has himself declared. Sadhunam Hridayam Mahyam in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sadhus live in his heart. And when I say the word sadhu or devotee, it doesn't mean those who are wearing saffron. Anybody who is engaging in devotional service is a sadhu, is a devotee, whether man or woman, old people or children, or an elephant or a monkey, anyone who is fixed in knowledge. Knowledge, which knowledge? About the Supreme Lord, about the supremacy of Krishna, and who is engaged in devotional service. Again, coming back, one who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Again, if somebody has these qualities, becomes very dear to Krishna. Once somebody becomes dear to Krishna, all his desires must be fulfilled automatically. He does not have to separately endeavor for that. And secondly, anybody who engages in devotional service will automatically develop all these qualities. And text number 20, the last verse. Ye tu dharmamritam midam yathoktam paryupasate shadadhana mat parama bhaktaste ativa me priya. The last of series explaining the disposition of qualities of a devotee. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service, bhakti yoga, and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Here he uses the word very, very twice. Ativ me priya. Ati, earlier he has used the word me priyo naraha, right? Me priyaha, same priyaha, sachame priyaha. But he says, ativ me priyaha. That means those who follow this path of bhakti, all of you are following the path of bhakti. Path of bhakti means hearing about him. We have been hearing regularly, chanting his names. If you're not chanting, please understand your spiritual life has not even begun. Anybody can say, oh, I'm also spiritual, I'm doing. But the goal of all this hearing and attending these festivals, satsangs, is ultimately so that we start chanting his holy names, because that is the spiritual practice recommended for Kali Yuga. But if you have not begun chanting the holy names, please understand, have no doubts, no confusion about it. Your spiritual life has not even begun. Now, what is the use of attending satsang and reading scriptures, attending festivals, if we are not realizing what they are meant for? They are meant for. They are meant to bring us to a point where we realize the importance of the practice recommended for this age. Kalau tadhari kirtanat kalyuga keval naam adhara. The only process recommended for Kali Yuga, spiritual process, like in Satyukrite Yadhyayato Vishnum. In Satyuga, it was meditation on the form of the Lord. Tretayam Yajato Mukha. In Treta Yuga, it was Yagya. Dwapare Paricharyayam. Deity worship with cleanliness and punctuality. Kalauta Hari Kirtanat. In Kali Yuga, it is the Kirtan of the Lord's holy names. So if you have not begun chanting the Lord's holy names, we should not call ourselves devotees. We should not call ourselves practicing spiritual life. Spiritual life means chanting, because that is the spiritual practice recommended for the age. If anyone, or even the entire world or entire universe comes and tells you, no, you don't need to chant, you can do this also, all those people are big cheaters and liars. Because scriptures say, the Lord says, the only process which is recommended, and the only process which will work is the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And if we have not started chanting, our spiritual life has not started at all, and we are just wasting our time, and we are just taking it very lightly. We are being very complacent. We are still in our comfort zone. Bhakti only begins when we come out of our comfort zone. It is the simplest of processes. So you just have to move your tongue. There's no hard and fast rules required for this. You can chant before taking bath, after taking bath, sitting, walking, but you have to chant. And the important thing is, when you chant, try to hear the sound of the mantra. If the mind wanders away, gently bring it back again, focus on the sound. It is the easiest process. But after going to all pilgrimage places, studying all the scriptures, hearing so many satsang, attending festivals, and studying all the scriptures, if we don't start chanting, then all this is simply a waste of time. I am not exaggerating, it is simply wastage of time, because the goal of all this is so that we start chanting. And if you're not doing that, we are fooling ourselves, we are cheating ourselves. So please start chanting the Lord's holy names and you will be more than rewarded. All the other, there are 9 limbs of bhakti: hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, acting as his friend, surrendering everything, acting as his servant, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vandanam. Uh, so, like that, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam, Padasevanam. There are 9 limbs of bhakti, and all the other limbs of bhakti are included in the chanting of the Lord's holy names and in the Lord's own words, which is the supreme spiritual practice. He says it is the chanting of his holy names. The Lord becomes extremely obliged to that person uh, who chants his names. And the Lord has himself said in the scriptures that anybody, when he chants Krishna's names, Krishna sings, "Oh, this person has chanted my name. So it is my duty now to give him all protection." That is how the Lord thinks about the chanter of his holy names. So please take to this process. Otherwise, all this is just a show that we are doing. Just, I am also attending Gita classes. I am also attending satsang. I am also taking part in festivals. But the most important thing which we are supposed to do as a result of these is that's something that we are not doing. Imagine you are studying in your college, uh, but you're not getting the degree. The spending time in college does not make you a graduate. Like when I was studying in college, there were some people who were known as super seniors. Super seniors वो लोग थे जो जब से college शुरू हुआ है, they did not pass out of that college. So they have been there, the oldest people. They were also attending classes and doing everything other people were doing, but they did not pass out. They did not pass the exam. They always failed. So what is the use? That's isn't that a wastage of time? If you don't realize the goal for which you have entered the college. Similarly, all these activities is simply a waste of time if we don't start chanting. It is like we can become super seniors. So I have been attending for last 20 years. What is the goal? Have you understood the essence? No. Therefore, and anybody who may have just entered just now and started chanting, please understand that person is more advanced than us. If after spending 20 years also you not realize the importance of the chanting of the Lord's holy names. So everything depends on how soon we realize the essence and how soon we take it up and how soon we give up our laziness. We have 24 hours to ourselves, but we can't give like half an hour also. आधा घंटा भी हम लोग नहीं दे पा रहे हैं भगवान के लिए. So many people, I had sent out a message. If you have uh, a need where you want to incorporate some spiritual practice in your daily life, just message me. And quite a few messaged, but many did not message also. So people are lazy. And some messaging, Prabhuji, I'll begin with 10 minutes. I said, all right, I'll give you a practice for 10 minutes also. Begin with that. And some of them who started with 10 minutes, now they're doing 45 minutes, 1 hour also. We begin somewhere and Krishna will hold our hand and take us forward. Let us not be scared of jumping into this realm. Krishna is the swift deliverer for those people who start walking on this path. So please take it seriously. Don't waste time. Any one single moment that is lost, it cannot be brought back. Human life is very precious. It is not given back so easily. Understand the Lord has been very kind. He has made the process very simple. Just chant his names and perfect your life. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for a wonderful session as usual. So,
Yes.
Prabhuji, if anybody has any questions, could you, you can put it up on the chat, or you could unmute yourself and ask the question.
Okay, somebody's asking for the acronym.
Acronym,
I
yes.
forgot to I forgot to mention that. So acronym is God only. G is Godhead, where the Lord is talking about whose worship is the supreme. That's why Srila Prabhupada always used the word Godhead, personality of Godhead. Text number 1 to 7, that theme is discussed about Godhead. Krishna explains how his supreme form, Godhead. The Brahmajyoti is not known as Godhead. It refers to a personal feature of the Lord Godhead, text 1 to 7. O is text number 8 to 12, where he talks about various options, as we discussed. If you can't do this, do that, like that. And D is devotee's disposition, qualities, disposition, text number 13 to 20. So GOD is the acronym. Godhead 1 to 7, 8 to 12 is options, various options, and devotee's disposition, text number 13 to 20. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.